Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about the controversy surrounding the television host and musician and actor named Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon has come under fire recently for very obvious reasons. He got caught on his own podcast espousing some very offensive, very racist beliefs, specifically what people are calling anti Semitic and anti white racism. Now, that latter half doesn't actually get mentioned much. All you'll really see in the articles and now that he's apologizes, he's only apologizing and people are mentioning the anti-Semitic comments. The anti-Jewish stuff is far more important. In fact, it's probably the only thing that actually got him in trouble, even though he said many equally and perhaps worse things about white people as well. So Nick Cannon has these certain targets, but obviously certain ones are more sensitive than others. Making fun of white people is cool. You could hate them and all that stuff. Being racist to us is almost allowed, basically. But the Jewish people still have some of those privileges. They're still treated fairly and correctly. And I still disagree with all of this. Obviously being anti Semitic is bad, but the point is being anti white is bad too. But regardless, what's happened with this story is we've had a couple different phases. Basically, first, Nick Cannon was called out. We did an intro video talking about some of the bad things he said. And then second, he got fired by Viacom CBS and he lost the hosting rights to his show, Wild and Out. Now, this is a show he's been on for like 15 years. So that was a big loss to him, but it wasn't a total loss because Nick Cannon hosts a number of other shows as well that have still yet to fire him. In fact, he's scheduled to be hosting The Masked Singer, which he hosted already for a couple seasons, and they're working on the next season sometime this year. And that's what brings us to today's development. Today, we're talking about how privileged Nick Cannon is because he's not being fired from these other shows. In fact, Fox even went so far as to say specifically they're not going to let him go from The Masked Singer. So this is interesting. We're going to talk more about it soon, get to the details and everything. But first, let's take a quick moment to check out our sponsor. Recently, the Supreme Court has decided to not look at big Second Amendment cases, saying they won't hear appeals to several cases involving weapon laws. This has caused a blow to Second Amendment activists, and to combat this and to show our support for weapon owners, Beyond Patriots is doing a giveaway of their popular Second Amendment coin. Normally, these coins would retail for about $40, but now Beyond Patriots is giving these gold coins away for free just for this occasion. All you have to do is pay for shipping, which is an awesome deal for a really good quality collector item. And you'll be supporting our Second Amendment rights, which is really important, more important now than ever. So make sure you guys check out that exclusive link below. Get yourself a free coin today, only pay for shipping. And now let's get back to the show. Great, now that that's out of the way, let's get to this article. It's from Twitchy. It says, now that's privilege. Nick Cannon will keep his gig on The Masked Singer after apologizing for anti-Semitic comments. Now, remember, he said some of the worst stuff ever. He had very, very bad things to say about Jewish people and white people, but of course, the white part is left out again. We're talking more about the Jewish parts and how he was attacking them, saying they're subhuman and stuff like that. Lots of offensive things. So let's read on here and see where this story goes. As Twitchy reported, Nick Cannon, or most likely his PR people, sent out an apology for his anti-Semitic remarks on his podcast with guest Richard Griffin, aka Professor Griff, of rap group Public Enemy. As many pointed out, however, he may have apologized to the Jewish community, but he didn't make mention of whites in general, or non-melanated people, who he said were a little less and turned into evil savages by fleeing the sun and resettling in colder climates or something like that. It was difficult to wrap our minds around it. Viacom CBS terminated its relationship with Cannon after the video clip went viral, but it looks like Fox is letting bygones be bygones and keeping Cannon on as a host of The Masked Singer. So this is the basic premise of the story. We see some more details about the bad things we said, which we went over extensively previously. And also we're addressing the hypocrisy and the fact that Nick Cannon is hosting at least 3 different shows now on 3 different networks, and only one of them has let them go so far. And before we move forward with that, let me just clarify, I don't really care if Nick Cannon gets fired or not. I'm fine with him going back on TV or not going back on TV, depending on what each show wants to do. But the point of the matter is the hypocrisy, the double standard, and like they're saying in this article, like we're saying in the title of this video, it's showing a lot of privilege for someone like Nick Cannon. Like Nick Cannon is one person to go along with a lot of liberal ideas. He supports Black Lives Matter. He talks about all these bad arrests gone wrong, race baits them, does all that stuff, saying white people are racist and privileged, and we have all this extra things in the government helping us or something. But the fact of the matter is, Nick Cannon is showing his own privilege here. He's showing that he could say and pretty much do whatever he wants, but since he's a black dude and he could get away with it, he's still getting to host his big show. He's got a lot of other stuff going on, like a lot of other projects. He's hardly been canceled. Like losing one of three shows is not that big a deal, and it's not like he's totally getting knocked off. And the point of that is, like I was saying, I'm not one to call for cancellations, but it is an interesting double standard because many, many conservatives have lost their shows or more for far less. Like, for example, there was two different shows that were let go by ABC. Roseanne was promptly fired from her own show, like her only main baby show that was highly successful a few years back when it rebooted. But ABC decided to fire her because of one bad tweet that she eventually did apologize for too and explain that she didn't really know it was as offensive or supposedly racist as they said, but they let her go anyway. And a similar thing happened with, I believe it was Last Man Standing. Last Man Standing is now on Fox. But yeah, it was on ABC too. So yeah, the similar thing happened with Last Man Standing, although it wasn't as controversial, but basically ABC let this show go too. They canceled the whole show, and it was despite it doing really well. It had good ratings and was really well liked by its audience. But ABC let that go too, just mostly because Tim Allen happens to be a conservative guy. I don't even think he necessarily had a outrage moment or some moment that caused a controversy saying something specifically. I think it was more just in general, they didn't want this right-leaning show on their ever evolving and more left-wing TV channel called ABC, which of course is owned by Disney, which owns Marvel and Star Wars and all these other things that are getting woke as hell lately. Now back to the Cannon story. This Vanity Fair tweet says, Cannon, who apologized for spreading hateful propaganda and stereotypical rhetoric about the Jewish community, will remain the host of Fox's The Masked Singer. So notice that no mention of him saying same or worse things about white people. It's just apologize to the Jewish people, let the white people go. That's fine. And I think you could see how messed up this is. Well, he sort of apologized for his comments. And this guy says also the Jewish community only. I watched the video and could swear I heard him say that whites were savages without souls or something to that effect. I'm pretty sure he said that having less melanin than him made me less human and savage. Imagine the outcome if the roles were reversed. Damn right. That's exactly what we're getting at. The main point is the double standard and the fact that someone like this, a liberal darling, African-American minority person, popular, rich, handsome, famous, this is the epitome of privilege. And, if anyone said anything close like that on the other side, like if you said something like that about black people, about Hispanic people or Asians or whichever minority you pick, like you would be canceled in a heartbeat. I mean, they want to cancel the Captain America's Winter Soldier because his supposed girlfriend wore a kimono 2 years ago. Like, just think about how far gone that is. They're trying to get after Sebastian Stan. But at the same time, Nick Cannon is sticking around and he said some of the worst things of all time. More people complaining about what Nick Cannon said. He didn't apologize to white people for calling us a little less than savages and animals. If a white celebrity said that about blacks, he would be ostracized from our community, fired from every job, and no apology would save them. But the comments about white people being savages, yeah, more people, obviously he said a lot of bad things about white people, and people noticed, We never watched it, but did he catch the clip of Sarah Palin saying baby got back? So that was something. What a joke. Yeah, there was Sarah Palin on the show singing a rap song. This is the Masked Singer lore, and some people are saying, what a joke, big mistake, makes sense, garbage show. And actually, I'll go to bat, like I said before, like I actually watched this show. I watched Masked Singer with my family. We like singing shows. We like seeing who the guests are, guessing, that kind of stuff. It's pretty fun, but I would say throughout this show, I've watched it since the beginning, and Nick Cannon was always like my least favorite part, so I don't know if that's going to save me in the end, but he just always, he's a fine host most of the time. He doesn't really say anything political on there, but yeah, he's not the best part of the show. He just like leads it along. And then on top of that, he would always wear silly stuff. Like this isn't a good example. He's just wearing a hat, but on the show Masked Singer, he would always wear these like turban head covers, which, I know I'm not trying to sound like offensive or racist or something, but it was just like the weirdest fashion choice to me because he kept wearing these turbans. Some of them would be like glitter, and then he wore like diamond shoes that were like $1 million each, just like real flashy, like over the top. And, it just goes to show this guy is, pretty bad, pretty terrible. This double standard is super infuriating. Like, it's super messed up that they would just take it this far. And it's so like blatant and in your face. They're saying it straight up. They're not even mentioning the anti-white racism. Like, it's all about the anti-Semitism, which is bad too. And I totally get that. You want to apologize for that, but to leave out the anti-white apology, like to leave out that completely, like I don't see it ever mentioned. It's crazy. Let's see if this article says anything. It says Nick Cannon will remain the host of Fox's The Masked Singer. The network announced Wednesday, one day after Viacom severed ties with the TV star for making anti-Semitic remarks on his podcast. Cannon, who apologized to the Jewish community on Wednesday, also issued a second statement the same night, apologizing for spreading hateful propaganda and stereotypical rhetoric. I extend my deepest and most sincere apologies to my Jewish sisters and brothers for the hurtful and divisive words that came out of my mouth during my interview with Richard Griffin, Cannon wrote on Facebook and Twitter. So already, like we said, no mention of the white racism, no mention of calling, a whole population of people, like all European descendants, like less than, and saying they don't have like empathy or sympathy or whatever it may be. Like, it's just an outrageous oversight. I mean, it's obvious, like, oh, he's trying to get around it, and he's not given like a full apology. It's like a half apology. And the fact that these other channels are keeping him on is rather interesting. I have a feeling that means CBS Viacom will bring him back onto Wild and Out one day. Like, they're going to want that money back, and they're going to bring him back. Like, nothing's going to happen to the guy, basically. He's getting away with saying some of the most racist stuff ever. And the last thing I'll mention is this really reminds me of the Terry Crews story. Terry Crews is probably laughing and saying, I told you so right now, because he's another African-American celebrity who was actually speaking out against this. I was surprised because he's typically very left-wing too, but he was talking about how, this BLM stuff, this pro-black stuff is eventually going to be leading to people saying, not only do Black Lives matter, like Black lives are better. And that's really where Nick Cannon went with a lot of that podcast and that discussion. It was talking about how they think Black people are better. They think they're the original Semitic people. They said they had the melanin, which makes them, better and stronger, inherently, more compassionate, and all this stuff is what they said. And obviously it's ridiculous. Obviously it's offensive. And yeah, it's just a bad look. And Terry Crews was right. He called it just like a week or two ago, saying that this stuff was leading to this kind of black supremacy. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Also hit that like button to get things shared. And until next time, have a great day.